Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video where today we return with round 17 of our F1 Manager McLaren career mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here at Marina Bay, Singapore. Of course, if you missed out on the last video that went live from the Italian GP just a few days ago, would highly recommend, go back, check it out. It was a fantastic race from the Temple of Speed. But of course, 6 races now left to go of this campaign. We're into the flyaway season to finish off this Formula 1 year. Ferrari still leading the way over Red Bull and Mercedes, but we're just slowly but surely inching away from the Alpines and the Alfa Romeos behind us there. Carlos Sainz still leads the way in the Drivers' World Championship. They're 26 points now ahead of Charles Leclerc, who's a further 18 ahead of Max Verstappen. This season is really heating up, and I think, it could come down to the wire there. Lando Norris up into P9 overall in the championship, the highest I'm pretty certain he's been all season long, and just 3 points behind Pierre Gasly there, with Oscar Piastri not far behind in P11 there. I think the ultimate goal is still to try and get close to Valtteri Bottas, but of course he has just been an absolute beast in that Alfa Romeo all season long. We've had a couple of new parts come onto the car this weekend as well, so we have got the all-new rear wing that has been confirmed there, and we've also got some new regulation vote, of course, the financial changes ready for next season, and everyone pretty much, apart from Haas, AlphaTauri, I can understand Aston Martin, but yeah, Haas, AlphaTauri and Aston Martin, they're all voting for it, every other team voting against it. So of course that was that if you win, you get more budget, so it was going to make F1 less and less fair, so not really surprising that everyone has disagreed with that one. But let's get into it though. Singapore Grand Prix. I think this track, I'm not really too sure what track suits us, to be honest, anymore. So we'll see how we get on today, I guess.
We're here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit and the Singapore Grand Prix is just about to start. The name Singapore means City of Lions, and this weekend Formula 1 will be roaring into action. The bumpy street surfaces here make this a challenging circuit for the drivers, and the humidity causes them to lose as much as 3 kilos over the course of a race. But it's also tough on the cars, with 23 corners to tackle each and every lap. Good low-speed downforce will make all the difference here. This is it. We're down to the last few races of the season, and it's time for that final push. Who will be crowned champion at the end of it all? We'll find out soon enough. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Right, well, here we are then. Singapore GP weekend kicking off. Meant to be dry pretty much right the way throughout, rather luckily once again there. Of course, we have seen in recent years, obviously in real life Formula 1, some rainstorms now arrive in Marina Bay. But of course, like Crofty mentioned in the intro, the City of Lions, Singapore, and of course the lion tamers that are these Formula 1 drivers. I don't quite know where I'm going with that metaphor, but I'm sticking with it there. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, pretty much as always, first cars out onto the track. We'll tell them to avoid curbs and stay in the dirty air. Stay out of the dirty air, and we'll see how they get on. I think I said this back in the Ferrari career mode as well, but honestly, Singapore is one of my favourite tracks to go to on F1 Manager because you can actually spend time looking at the detail around the circuit. Of course, driving around here is difficult enough. Driving and commentating like I usually do is incredibly difficult around Marina Bay, but, sitting back, still having to commentate, but sitting back just watching the cars go around, I can look at those trees, for example, or I can look at that building, or something like that around Marina Bay. It's just a bit different, it's a bit of fun. It's why I still like playing F1 Manager, even though, the interest is kind of a bit low nowadays. However, I am looking forward to the new game, hopefully this summer. Lando, that's normally pretty confident from him. If he doesn't say something's horrendous, he's normally a fan, so we will take that early on in the session as Oscar Piastri is getting absolutely harassed by both Ferrari cars out on track right now. Love that for Oscar. Well, both drivers then seemingly quite happy with the cars early on in FP1 here, just about halfway through the session. Oscar Piastri currently getting a few things tweaked. Lando Norris back out on for his second run, but Hamilton, of course, we saw him take the win last time out in Monza. Currently up, splitting those Ferrari cars at the top of the table. If Mercedes do get in there late on in the campaign, it could be a case of, if Sainz, Leclerc, Verstappen, they're all still in that championship hunt. Could Mercedes tip the balance in one of those drivers' favour or another? Well, the sun's setting and Lando Norris no happier with the car than he was previously, so Yeah, I guess that's the vibe from Lando as normal. Then Oscar Piastri still out running laps as well. We are causing some trains around this circuit. It's always in free practice. We're pretty much the slowest on the board, but then when we get to qualifying, we're normally a whole lot better. But yeah, things looking all right at the moment. I think we'll dive straight in with qualifying then.
Hello and thank you for joining us as our race weekend unfolds. Free practice has concluded and qualifying awaits. For those teams hoping to pick up points in tomorrow's race, qualifying is a great opportunity to get ahead of the competition. Whether a driver normally finds themselves as a front runner or a back marker, any advantage they can gain here today is sure to give them an edge. Here we go, folks. It's time to get started.
Right, we're having a look then at free practice times then when all is said and done, still right down towards the rear of the field. But, you know, once we got the cars out on some soft compound tyres, they're 11th for Lando, 14th for Oscar Piastri. I feel like it's going to be another one of those days where we're confined to Q2 there. Let's just make it through Q1 though, first of all, get out of that session nice and easily. Right, 12 minutes then left on the clock here in Q1. Just letting a few cars go out, set their bank collapse there. Sergio Perez alarmingly off the pace there as Mick Schumacher goes quicker than Zhou Guanyu. And that's going to be Oscar Piastri's lap ruined immediately. Thank you very much to, I think that was Carlos Sainz in his Ferrari car. What are you doing, mate? Never mind, Lando Norris is going to be heading out for his first run then here in Q1, and someone appears to have locked up somewhere. I can't see anything on the mini-map, so hopefully we're going to be okay. Someone has definitely stacked it though. I can't see a dot that's stopped. Yeah, Gasly apparently has binned it down at turn 20. Let's have a look then. Gasly, he's fine, Oh no, big lockup. In towards the final couple of corners, loses half the front wing. Big mistake there from Pierre, but he has been able to get back round. I think he's actually going out. He's still done his lap. You've got to love that from Pierre Gasly. He does not give up, and he's still 12 seconds quicker than Oscar. Running with Lando Norris, though, in towards the tight technical sector 3. Of course, we're not going to have to deal with this anymore in F1 2023. These two chicanes are going to be removed there, and we're going to go around the back of this grandstand down in towards the final few corners. Do I think it will completely fix the Singapore Grand Prix? No, to be completely honest. Do I think, however, it will make quite a big change? Yes, and I do think it will allow some more overtaking around this venue. But Lando Norris then through the final couple of corners. Green sector 1, green sector 2. It's going to be a mid-38 there. P5. Hats off to Lando Norris then. That should be him safely through into Q2 there. As yeah, this definitely... early signs indicate this is not a track for Alfa Romeo. That is good for us. Right, Oscar Piastri then, less than 5 minutes on the clock. We're going to send him back out for another run then. I'm just going to try and get him out a little bit early to make sure he doesn't get held up in any traffic. And of course, if we get more yellow flags out late on in the session, then hopefully it's not going to be too big of a concern to him. Still down in P20 there, but George Russell and Pierre Gasly off the pace as well. Could we see Aston Martin into Q2 for, well, both cars into Q2, I think, for the first time this year? Probably not. I'm expecting all three of these cars to improve that are behind them. But yeah, Oscar Piastri just needs to get a tidy lap on the board. And in through the final couple of corners then, Oscar Piastri, a nice tidy run this time round. Hopefully he's going to go somewhere near his teammate Lando Norris. They're a half-second gap. Back to Esteban Ocon behind the other McLaren car. They're at the final corner. Lando Norris, that is going to be P7 then, just a 10th away from Lando. That is fantastic early on in the session. And like I said, that should be both cars safely into Q2. Hamilton, provisionally fastest. And there we go then, a couple of big shocks at the end of Q2 though. Hamilton fastest. George Russell, P19 there, could not get a lap in come the end of the session. So it was only Oscar Piastri out of that bottom group that did improve there. So Lance Stroll, Alex Albon, Nicholas Latifi, George Russell, and Pierre then out in Q1. Sergio Perez down in 12th place. We have legitimately got a fast car here. It's just maybe going to be a challenge to get past Kevin Magnussen there, and then a 7/10 gap up to those top 4. Let's see if we can make it into Q3. Not that I'm biased or anything, but I do think, of course, Lando Norris has got a much better chance of making it into Q3 than Oscar Piastri there. Of course, not helped by the fact that Oscar Piastri had to do 2 runs in Q1. So he's gone out on a fresh set of tyres. Lando Norris, we've actually put him back out on the scrub set that he used from Q1 there. But it might be that Oscar Piastri only really sort of gets one serious run. If he's right on the cusp, then I might send him out again later on in the session and use his final set of tyres. But yeah, I think all eyes have got to be on Lando. He stopped on the minimap then for a second. I really did panic. And luckily then, both cars finding some good clear track space here on their Q2 runs. No cars getting in the way. Once again, I think that really is the big deciding factor around Marina Bay. Oscar Piastri threads his way through the final couple of turns up towards the start-finish line. He is going to go straight up into P5. Loving that from the young Australian there once again. Quicker than the Alfa Romeo, still behind K-Mag. Lando Norris will also go into P5 then, half a tenth away from Kevin Magnussen, so we can definitely apply some pressure to that Haas car. That might be us into Q3. Sainz and Verstappen still need to do a run, but surely we're quicker than Seb, we're quicker than Mick, we're quicker than Yuki, and the Alfa Romeos. Surely that's us into Q3. Well, I'll be honest, I really just don't want to leave anything to chance here late on in the session, so we're going to send both cars back out for a last-ditch run then. I mean, Alpine there, down in the drop zone at the moment. Fernando Alonso all the way down in P13. I'm sure he won't be hoping to qualify there, ready for today's Bahrain Grand Prix. Of course, recording this before the Grand Prix. You guys tell me where he's commented down below as well. But I'm going to guess P4 in the session that's now happened. But anyway, Lando Norris, though, on his final run there. Valtteri Bottas improves up into P8 then, so clearly Alfa Romeo have been hiding a little bit of pace then late on in the session. We'll monitor the timing screens whilst we watch Lando Norris go around in the background. Sergio Perez improves, but stays in P4 there, and top 3 currently in the order. Top 3 in the Drivers' World Championship. The Sainz goes and gets ahead of Max Verstappen there. Teammate Charles Leclerc comes across the line. He will not improve. Stays, though, fastest at the end of Q2. Max Verstappen, I think, has been a bit held up behind the Alpha Tauri come the end of the day. As Fernando Alonso improves up into 12th there. So Lando Norris has made it through into Q3. And so has Oscar Piastri then. So we didn't even need to worry about that late on in the session. Hamilton, out of nowhere, has now gone fastest. So incredible scenes by Lewis Hamilton once again, as Lando Norris improving in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Let's see if we can get a bit closer to Kevin Magnussen there. Could we see Oscar Piastri improve and maybe get the better of Valtteri Bottas as well as we wind our way through the final couple of corners then? Was not expecting this sort of pace from the Australian, but really is feeling dialed in with the setup here as he rounds through the final corner. Will Oscar Piastri get within a second of the time set by Lewis Hamilton up towards the line? 38.5. He will improve, but he stays P9. Lando Norris, though, green Sector 1, green Sector 2. He will set a 1:38.3, and he will stay in P7 there. Just 22 thousandths behind K-Mag. We're into Q3. That's a really good sign. So luckily, all drivers getting an extra free set of tyres for Q3 then. So we're going to put both cars out on a scrub set first of all, and then of course we'll let them go out on that fresh, sticky set of soft compound tyres right at the end of qualifying here. But Hamilton is really looking to shake up the order at the front of the field. Like I said, not really expecting too much from these first runs though from either of our cars. Luckily, the good thing is with Q3, where the sessions are shorter and there's very little track time, pretty much everyone has to follow an incredibly similar routine there. Fernando Alonso just behind Oscar Piastri up over the line. Oscar goes 1.3 off fastest there, pretty much with an identical time to what he's already set. Bottas then shifts him down into 7th place. There, of course, we've got the big 5 at the front. Where will Lando go relative to K-Mag? He will go a 10th behind him there, so Bottas currently in a McLaren sandwich, but of course we are the only midfield team with 2 cars into Q3 there. Only Red Bull Ferrari and ourselves with both cars in Q3. Here we are then, final laps from Q3. Oscar Piastri round in the final corner to kickstart his lap. Valtteri Bottas will be the first one over the timing beam, but Lando Norris is really taking his time about it as he rounds his way through the final couple of corners. So I think we'll ride on board then with Lando here for a final lap around Marina Bay. Could be on for one of our better qualifying sessions of the year. Of course, won't quite match the highs of Belgium or Australia, of course, all the way back at the start of the year. But Lando Norris then dives down in towards the first corner there. I'll try and get some data up as well about how well he's going around. Second gear as he heads through turn 3 there, but fantastic acceleration in this McLaren car. We'll try and keep a little eye on Oscar Piastri as well. As you can see, unable to improve in Sector 1 despite the fresh set of the soft compound tyres. There would be nice if we could get Oscar ahead of the the Alfa Romeo even, of Valtteri Bottas there, as checkered flag is now out. Kevin Magnussen improves though, but stays of course in P6. Perez unable to move himself up inside the top 5 there, stays as worst of that top group. Fernando Alonso stays down in a P10, so at least we know Oscar Piastri isn't going to lose a place there, as Lando Norris once again improving in Sector 1 there. You can see through what used to be the Singapore Sling, of course, the alterations then through the next chicane as he heads over the Anderson Bridge, actually keeping it over on the right-hand side through there as Max Verstappen stays in P3. Hamilton stays fastest and even improves there, goes slightly quicker than Charles Leclerc, who it looks like, therefore, with both Ferraris on their in-laps, Lewis Hamilton is on pole for the Singapore Grand Prix, but we're more interested in what Lando Norris is going to be able to do. Improves in Sector 1, improves in Sector 2. Oscar Piastri has also improved in Sector 2, up over the line. He improves by 1,000th of a second there. That isn't going to do us a whole lot of favours. Oscar Piastri stays in P9 then as we round our way through the final couple of corners, though. Will Lando Norris be able to get ahead of Kevin Magnussen, put himself as best of the rest here at the end of qualifying through the final double left-hander, up over the line, 38.3. No, he will not. 600ths away from the Haas car, but P7 is not bad at all. And there we go then, Hamilton fastest in all 3 qualifying sessions here, but he does get the lap at the end. There are 1:37.2. Of course, we've seen him do some blinding laps around the Singapore streets before. This year, apparently no different there. But Red Bull, Ferrari and the Mercedes all seem to be within the shot here today. Lando Norris P7, Oscar Piastri P9. Let's get into it. Singapore Grand Prix.
Welcome to race day. And before we get down to it, last-minute checks are being made.
Qualifying went well for McLaren, and they're set to start this race feeling quite comfortable. During the qualifying session, Mercedes was simply phenomenal. They'll be starting this race with a considerable advantage. And the race will be taking place under blue skies. That means the teams should be able to apply their strategies without any added complications.
Well, we've got some fascinating strategies that are sure to be applied today. But for now, all eyes shift to the starting line of the Singapore Grand Prix.
Right, here we are then. Singapore GP time. I'm not too sure why it's not night time yet, but we won't worry about that all too much there. In terms of strategy today, I think we've got to get aggressive with both cars early on. Might be worth putting Oscar onto a 2-stop later, depending on how he copes. But we'll try and go soft medium then. Don't really want to lose places early on in the GP. We'll also go quite aggressive under fueling the car as well. See, of course, if we can try and save some fuel as the afternoon goes by. I just want to try and get past Kevin Magnussen early on in the day here and then really try and control the pace from in front of the Haas car. We've often seen K-Mag being very, very strong on qualifying there, but struggle a bit more in the race. So that is the plan of action here today.
Clear skies tonight, with the drivers having now arrived at their grid positions. And there's Lando Norris. With a top 10 position on the grid, this race could really go either way for them. And it's the other McLaren. Not as close to the front as they might have wished for, but we know the race order can change a lot during those first few corners. The teams are ready to go. We're just moments away from the Singapore Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
There we go then, pretty clean start then for both of our cars as we head down in towards turn 1. Let's see if Lando Norris can try and get a run around the outside of Kevin Magnussen through the first corner there. Looks like Oscar has got past Valtteri Bottas through turn 1, so that is all important for one of our cars there. No, Bottas on a fight back at the first couple of turns. So, well, you know what? We'll put both on deploy at the start of this GP. See if we can try and make some moves there. Down the inside goes Oscar Piastri, then back on Valtteri Bottas through the next couple of turns there. Exactly what we want to see. Do not want to be trying to get stuck behind an Alfa Romeo that doesn't quite look up to its normal tricks this weekend. Clearly doesn't suit this Singapore GP circuit there, as Oscar Piastri, one of the only cars actually to make up places on this opening. That Lando Norris still stuck behind Kevin Magnussen a little bit further up the order there, and you know we might just tone him back ever so slightly then early on, but I do really want to try and see if something's going to be able to do on this opening lap there. We're right on board with Lando Norris as he heads his way in through Sector 2, of course, over the Anderson Bridge. You know, lap 1, you could think about going for a send, but we all know what Kevin Magnussen can be like when it comes to defending there as well. Actually, you know what? We're going to go big gambles, try and get a good run out onto the back straight. As you can see, Oscar still waiting behind his teammate. he was very, very slow off the corner there, so I don't know what that was about, as that got very, very close for comfort off the corner, but luckily we've already built over 1.4 second gap over Bottas behind, so it might be that Magnussen is trying to match Perez in front of him. Of course, you know, Kevin Magnussen, very, very good actually around the Singapore Grand Prix, has taken fastest lap 2 years running around this venue. I think back in 2017, 2018. Really am stretching my F1 knowledge now. No, it must have been 18 and 19 that Kevin Magnussen took back-to-back fastest laps around this venue. But Hamilton leads the way then at the end of lap 1. He's still got Charles Leclerc in hot pursuit, though, 8/10 back as Verstappen drops out of the DRS range immediately behind one of his big championship rivals. So we've got yellow flags, though. Carlos Sainz, World Championship leader, plummeting down the order. Sainz has stopped down at turn 1. And has he just span, or has he had an engine failure? What's gone on for Carlos Sainz then? He's just looped it round, and not what you want to be doing as a championship leader, but really does us a favour, as we will now get promoted up into P6 and P7, as Sainz now has to re-emerge at the back of the pack, behind even George Russell. Well, DRS then already, of course, enabled here in Marina Bay, but Kevin Magnussen still just ahead of Lando Norris. So I'm going to try and use the DRS for a few laps, sort of see how much aggregate fuel we can save as well. Sainz, though, it's going to be a long afternoon. Of course, we know just how difficult it can be to overtake around the Singapore GP, so I think we're just probably going to have to settle in for the long haul this afternoon. Might be a race a bit reminiscent of Monaco a few weeks back there, as Bottas is really trying to hang on with Oscar Piastri early on, but I feel like that Alfa Romeo is having to push just to equal our cars there, as we've got to just make sure that Oscar doesn't fall too far away from Lando, and we've also got to really monitor his tyre wear. Lando Norris, I think, the only car to carry a fresh set of the soft compound tyres out of the top 10, so he's got a bit of an advantage there. Zhou Guanyu, Lance Stroll, George Russell, the only one starting on the mediums. Oh, there we go. Looks like Lando Norris has got past Kevin Magnussen. As soon as I start fast forwarding, we go and miss that one, so I'm guessing a move down the Raffles Boulevard. As you can see there, Lando Norris, superior straight line speed over the Haas car. He tries to give him a big old squeeze, but Lando Norris is through into P6 then. Sorry, P5 even, I should say, of the GP. Lofty heights early on in the race, but let's just try and pull away then from that Haas. Right, lap 5, we've now got Lando Norris out of the DRS range of Kevin Magnussen. That's quite important early on, as still Bottas trying to apply some pressure to Oscar Piastri there. Maybe we've got to try and get Oscar around the Haas car as well, and then do the Top Gear strat from a few years ago, where they just sat side by side throughout the rest of the race. Right, riding on board then with Oscar Piastri to start lap 7. Kevin Magnussen really is still struggling early on in this GP, so we're going to try and pounce then with our second car there. You can see he's going to be up in the DRS zone as we head out onto the Raffles Boulevard. Once again, Oscar Piastri looks to the left, will weave back over as he heads through the next part of the corner to the inside, in a carbon copy move of what his teammate did just a few laps ago. And Oscar Piastri then up into P6 of the GP, so fantastic little overtake there done by our second car. But again, I think we're going to have to try and get them both just to push on a little bit, just to try and break free, because of course we're going to have to save a lot of fuel later on in the afternoon, so we need to build up a gap early, but we also need to look after the tyres. So there we go, Oscar Piastri has now set the fastest lap of the day. Goes to show how much they are pushing early on, still not really losing touch from the front runners, but sadly now Kevin Magnussen still hanging on quite close. Well, Hamilton then has stretched his advantage at the front of the field there. 4 seconds now clear. As you can see, everyone inside the top 6 are around about 4 seconds away from the car in front. Magnussen still applying some pressure to Oscar Piastri, but I think now we're going to have to try and start saving some fuel with Lando Norris. We might have been quite aggressive with the amount of fuel we went under early on. I think basically what we're banking on is a safety car at some point today, just to really kind of bail us out in this situation. But we're not going to try and just, completely rely on that. We are still going to try and fix things, as Magnussen, we can see every time, gets very, very close down the end of the back straight to Oscar, but just cannot find a way around him. Sights update, P15. George Russell still in P18. He's basically having the Singapore GP he had in real life. And as soon as I try and start fuel saving with Oscar Piastri, Kevin Magnussen is going to sneak by there. So it might be worth just hanging close to the Haas car at the moment. But yeah, we've got to really monitor, make sure Magnussen isn't taking any significant time out of Lando up the road. Already, though, at 1/4 distance this afternoon. And yeah, things have really just simmered out very, very early on. Oh, someone's binned it. We've got a safety car. Perfect timing for us. Who on earth has binned it, though, in this Grand Prix? I can't Can't see anything in particular. I guess we've now got to box and go hard. No, we can probably go mediums, I reckon. No, what we'll do is we will go Oscar onto hards and confirm. We'll bring Lando onto mediums, of course, because we know just how much better he is on tyres. Pierre Gasly, second time this weekend, he's been in the wars. And what's happened to Pierre then? Battling George Russell down the Raffles Boulevard. Don't say George Russell's hit him. No! Huge shunt for Pierre Gasly there. Just locked up, missed his braking point, and did what Danny Kvyat did a few years back. Right, so a lot of cars have come into the pits then. George Russell and Zhou Guanyu have opted to stay out there, but rather worryingly, Oscar Piastri are one of, well, I say, some of the back market cars have pit onto hard tyres to see them through to the end. But Oscar Piastri might be under some more pressure from drivers behind him. It really does depend on whether any of those cars are going to make another stop. We're also not saving much fuel as much as I'd like to. And now Kevin Magnussen, of course, is going to be all over the back of Lando Norris. I think we've just got to try and put Zhou Guanyu between us and the Haas. Whoa, green flag racing. They didn't give me any warning about that. As we get going again here in Singapore. Now I've got to try and get both drivers back on the deploy. Still obviously very, very low on fuel. But I mean, they're still warning me about the safety car restart. We've already going again. Low fuel. Yeah, we're aware of that. We've got to be really, really careful with that. Actually, we might really struggle to try and bring that back to where I need it. Already pretty much at 1/3 distance here. But Hamilton controls the pace once again at the front of the field. Kevin Magnussen seemingly under some pressure from George Russell behind. That could do us some favours early on. But I think what we've got to do is wait for Zhou Guanyu to drop out of the DRS range of the cars in front and then try and pick him up down the Raffles Boulevard. I think we've also just got to try and save a bit of battery just so we can use it on the full deploy for both drivers, you know, if Oscar ends up under pressure from Fernando Alonso as well. There's a lot of strategy going on here, but fuel saving is still the biggest of our concerns. It really hasn't taken long then for Zhou Guanyu to drop out of the DRS range of the cars in front, still causing a big old train for Lando Norris and everyone behind him at this stage of the day, as of course we can potentially look to extend Oscar Piastri, maybe even use extra bits of tyres later on in the day. But lap 21 of 61, then 40 laps to go here from Marina Bay. Let's now just ride with Lando Norris, as hopefully he's going to be putting a move on Zhou Guanyu in the not too distant future there. Still are saving little bits of fuel every single lap, but it might just be if we build up a bit of a gap to the cars behind them that we're going to have to try and really fuel save late on in the day there. As you can see, the run that Lando was able to get on Zhou Guanyu. That covers him off, but surely up the inside into the next corner there. There goes Lando Norris then past the Alfa Romeo once again. And now we've really just got to push, I think, with Lando Norris for a couple of laps. Build up that gap whilst Kevin Magnussen gets stuck behind. It's Oscar Piastri already forming a bit of a train further back as well. Yellow flag's out. Sector 1, Aston Martin's gone. It's Sir Lancelot. He's completely gone into the barrier there. Surely that's going to be another safety car in this GP. And yet Lance Stroll phases through it slightly. Aston Martin have got an invisible rear wing. That might be how they're so strong early on in 2023. But the same cannot be said for their 2022 challenger. Littering sparks across the circuit. Somehow has been able to get going again, but surely with no rear wing, that is Lance Stroll's afternoon done and dusted there, as Oscar Piastri loses a place to Fernando Alonso as well. But Lando, luckily, is building up that gap to Zhou Guanyu there, as Magnussen has lost the place to Russell. This is okay for us. We've got more yellow flags out. I can't see anyone else. I think Bottas has spun. We've got a red flag. Bottas has caused a roadblock. Then he's collided somehow with Mick Schumacher. And that has completely changed the face of this race. What on earth has gone on there? Plenty of carnage off this safety car restart. As Bottas runs wide, spins, and Mick Schumacher left with nowhere to go. And just everyone else behind has to back up through the former Singapore sling then. So that's going to completely change the face of this race, like I said. But yeah, I mean, we've got plenty of cars out. Now, I've got to be really careful here, because I've got to make sure that we actually get both drivers on a fresh set of tyres then. So we're going to put them both on a fresh set of mediums right the way through to the end of the GP. Lando Norris as well will go on a fresh set of mediums as well. Sadly, if that had been a safety car, of course, we could have saved a bit of fuel. But red flag here in Singapore. Somehow Lance Stroll is still going, despite a rear wing failure.
Get back underway. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Well, I'm not sure how Stroll is allowed to get away with that one then, but luckily we've saved loads of fuel How on earth have we done that? Off the restart there is Lando Norris around the outside of Sergio Perez. That has been a fantastic little restart for our number 1 driver there. And Oscar Piastri gets the move done on Fernando Alonso again. Love to see it off the restart. So Oscar Piastri, of course, will have slightly fresher tyres than everyone, pretty much everyone else throughout the rest of the afternoon. And they've all gone softs. They're all going to have to pit again before the end of this Grand Prix there. So this could work out fantastically for us, or it could be an absolute disaster. I don't really know what the strategy is going to be between now and the end of the day. There is Hamilton at the front of the field trying to defend from Charles Leclerc there. Lando Norris stays in P5 ahead of Zhou Guanyu and George Russell there, as Oscar Piastri is in P9 still. But surely, if all these other cars are going to have to pit again before the end of the Grand Prix, we have been given a lifeline here to really jump towards the front of the order. This is a real step into the unknown. Surely soft compound tyres can't do 37 laps to the end of this GP, or even if they can, they'll have no advantage. I'm still not quite sure how Lance Stroll is allowed to get away with this. He has actually, confirmed to rejoin the race with half his rear wing missing, so he's got permanent DRS, but surely that car is basically undrivable for him. Surely. But we are still trying to use Zhou Guanyu to our advantage here. Do feel like that Alfa Romeo is still struggling as George Russell has, that red flag has really given him a lifeline as well this afternoon. Hamilton and Leclerc side by side at the front of the field there. Will Hamilton be able to hang on ahead of the Ferrari? Yes, he will. As Carlos Sainz still down in P11, so we're going to have to watch out for him late on in the day. But Russell there trying to apply pressure to Zhou Guanyu. Lando Norris has just got to run away. Oscar Piastri has got to try and get a bit closer again. I put him on the deploy very briefly, but still, we have to save fuel. Carnage first half to the Singapore Grand Prix. 3 drivers already out, including one of our big championship rivals in Bottas. So this is a golden opportunity for us to close up points in the championship to him. Got more yellow flags. One of the Mercs has been George Russell into the wall again here in Singapore. What on earth is happening in this Grand Prix? And I could... No! What's Lando done? What has Lando Norris done? I just saw Lando Norris as well swearing. As we can see, George Russell nicks the wall down at the end of the back straight. But Lando Norris has come on the radio as well. What has our McLaren driver done? He's completely buried it. Lando, no! Terminal damage, front wing destroyed. So we're going to have to box him onto a set of softs or mediums to get to the end. I think we're going to have to go mediums, aren't we? But Lando Norris then, a disaster in the Singapore Grand Prix. He must have just locked up heading over the Anderson Bridge. And yes, he has. Could not get the car slowed down there. Front wing goes flying. Heartbreak. He was under no pressure at all. And honestly, there could have been a Lando Norris win here this afternoon, as we've got to make sure, that I changed the front wing as well. Luckily, we have got a couple of those, so we don't get a repeat of Miami. But I cannot believe that Lando Norris is going to be shuffled back to the rear of the field, and we're not even getting a safety car at the moment. I don't know how we've got away with this without a safety car, but Oscar Piastri then is in prime position now in a decent situation in this Grand Prix. Lando Norris is going to have to monitor and make sure that he gets back to the pit lane all okay, but I cannot believe that. I cannot believe that for Lando Norris has completely thrown away a big potential result this afternoon. But that being said, could Oscar Piastri, I'm sort of looking at those gaps. Second win of the year, maybe a bit of hopium from yours truly. But Lando Norris then, we'll make sure they get a clean, tidy stop. But I think unless we get another safety car, that is basically his afternoon done and dusted. Then is George Russell also, of course, having to head into the pit lane there. But disaster for McLaren and Mercedes today. Oscar Piastri under some pressure from Carlos Sainz. But still, all of these other cars are going to have to pit again before the end of the afternoon. So Oscar is probably going to lead once more in this GP. But it is just a case for how long there is Lando Norris, new front wing on the car. I think, he's just got to try and get to the checkered flag, I suppose, and pray for another safety car. So there we go. Sainz has now overtaken Oscar Piastri. I'm guessing it was a pretty standard move. No, it didn't actually come at the normal overtaking place. It was down the other straightaway on this track. But faster car, faster tyres, championship leader makes it through. But we've got a much bigger picture to worry about. I still think we're in the fight for probably P5 today. I think, yes, obviously Sainz and Zhou Guanyu are definitely going to have to box against. Sainz we might still be able to stay ahead of by the end of this race, but it is just a case of when those front runners are going to pit once more. Well, 20 laps to go then this afternoon, and still, those drivers' tyres are sitting on sort of 60, 50 odd %. They're going to be absolutely wrecked by the end of this GP. But, the likes of Zhou Guanyu with just a few extra percentage points there might be able to make the difference Oscar Piastri still fuel saving, of course, right the way through pretty much to the end of this race, but it might be that he's got to get closer to that Haas Alfa Romeo combo there, as George Russell new fastest lap of the day. I'm not 100% sure these other cars are going to pit here before the end. I'm getting a little bit worried. Oh, we got another safety car. What on earth's happened now then in this GP? I mean, yeah, we may as well box Lando, of course. I think we've got to box Oscar as well, haven't we, really? Onto a fresh set of tyres. But why have we got another safety car? Sebastian Vettel out of the GP. What's happened to the Aston Martin? He's binned it where Lando Norris did. Well, that has really kind of screwed Oscar Piastri from potentially scoring a few extra points this afternoon there. But Sebastian Vettel just locks it up, smashes the wall, and somehow he's out of the Grand Prix, but Lando Norris survived his impact. But of course, yeah, everyone else is going to dive into the pit lane then at the end of this lap. Hamilton, though, has not had a chance to, but I don't think it's going to make any difference, of course, because he's ahead of the safety car. But yeah, we're going to bring in both cars late on in the day, make sure that obviously we're saving some fuel as well. Manage battery, everything like that. Unfortunately, I can't set it up with Oscar Piastri, though, as the Alpines might lose a bit of time. I mean, it might be that we get close back to the points before the end of the afternoon with Lando Norris as well. He's going to have to really push throughout these final few laps, but any slim hopes we had of trying to pick up against those cars there, as Zhou Guanyu hasn't pitted, rather weirdly, so I don't know what's going on there, but has very, very much been put in the bin for us. Zhou Guanyu then really is trying to do the impossible here, as I think Lando Norris has been well and truly screwed. I don't think he's caught back up to the rear of the field, as once again the team are not notifying me early enough of when that safety car is coming in. But Oscar Piastri's just got to go for it then off this restart here. Kevin Magnussen still in front of him, flying the flag for McLaren once more there, as Lando Norris, his absolute disaster of an afternoon, just keeps going from bad to worse. I mean, it was looking very, very good for the first 30-odd laps, but then it's very much turned on its head there. Zhou Guanyu is surely going to go backwards late on in the day. We need to try and outscore Alfa Romeo, of course, by a handful of points as well. But on a weekend where Lando, could have taken 10 points out of Valtteri Bottas, the gap's not going to come down at all unless we get another safety car, which isn't out of the realms of possibility, to be honest, with the way this afternoon has gone up to now there. But 15 laps to go of the Singapore Grand Prix. Alex Albon into the points for Williams, things you love to see. But Stroll, Norris, yeah, basically they're both out of it. Guanyu is really holding up a bit of a train late on in the day there. Sergio Perez still can't find a way around him at the moment, but surely it's just going to be cars picking him off lap after lap now. The DRS has been re-enabled. Oscar Piastri there complaining slightly about tyre overheating, but he should be fine between now and the end of the afternoon. We've just got to try and time the deploy in the right places there, try and potentially pick up another couple of spots. As here goes Sergio Perez then to the inside of the Alfa Romeo. Can't quite make the move happen there. It's going to have to sit back again, but here comes Carlos Sainz, almost 3 wide as we head down towards the end of the Raffles Boulevard there. Perez will make it by. Sainz is going to try and follow him through, but Zhou Guanyu aggressively swipes across the nose of the Ferrari car there, and Lewis Hamilton, despite everything that's going on today, still is leading the Singapore Grand Prix. Zhou Guanyu, though, I think is ready to lose another position here. He might even lose 2 if Kevin Magnussen can get a run down the back straight there. Here goes K-Mag trying to look to the inside. No, thinks better of it in towards the next corner. So Oscar Piastri's got to try and capitalise here and move us back up into P6. Of course, there's still every possibility that he could actually outscore George Russell this afternoon, so could be quite useful. Of course, we just need as many points as we can get, to be honest. Still the aim is just outscore those Alpines, those Alfa Romeos, and those Alpha Tauris. Of course, Alpha Tauri not scoring any points today either. So yeah, 4 teams, 4 different teams, all with not able to get a car towards the end of the race there. So Williams did have a golden opportunity here that it doesn't look like they're going to be able to capitalise on. As Kevin Magnussen again, though, having a look to the inside of Zhou Guanyu just in front. This time around, the Haas is surely going to be able to pick off the move, which he does. And now we've got to try and wait to get back round towards the Raffles Boulevard again to go for the move ourselves. Right, let's do this thing. Zhou Guanyu. It was a valiant attempt by the Alfa Romeo, and look at the straight line speed there to the inside of the Alfa. Into P7 we go. Kevin Magnussen, though, practically a second at the road, but he's going to have no DRS to defend himself with late on in the day. So, yep, I reckon P6 is still possible. Kevin Magnussen certainly had the pace over us in qualifying, but come race day Sunday, we have often seen that Haas car struggle a little bit more than it does on a Saturday there, as to the outside of Kevin Magnussen will go. It becomes the inside for the next corner. We've seen plenty of overtakes down there today, and that's going to be another one. Oscar Piastri into P6 of the GP. They're best of the rest at the moment, as Carlos Sainz has been quite lucky, actually, to get the miraculous recovery that he's been able to do. But let's just pull away from K-Mag. Of course, we've got enough fuel to see us through to the end. Let's just try and build up a bit of a gap and just bring this thing to the flag. Look at that as well. Oscar Piastri has just set new fastest lap of the day late on in the afternoon there. Just tried to use a little bit more fuel with him, see what we could do there. As Oscar, yet fastest. Lando Norris, though, is still closing in on a few other cars, but still, you know, if we can try and get back past the Williams, it'll be nice, but a bit of a consolation prize, to be honest, as Lance Stroll is already now a lap down, despite a red flag at half distance. I don't get what Aston Martin are attempting. Well, Lewis Hamilton then took a shock win last weekend in Monza, the Temple of Speed, but here in Singapore, he has looked pretty much in control right from the get-go there. Charles Leclerc still battling with Sergio Perez behind him, but the Mercedes, man, has really never looked back from early on in this GP there. Back-to-back wins for Mercedes definitely goes to show, you know, the summer break, they were able to bring some good upgrades to the car there. George Russell really has struggled throughout most of the afternoon. Lando Norris, to be honest, I'm a little bit gutted that he's been able to find his way back so late on in the day. They, you know, had that safety car been going for one extra lap, he probably could have got into the points with all the extra time he would have gained there. But Oscar Piastri, though, as well, hats off to him, a fantastic effort. You know, definitely felt like he deserved a good result here today, and will once again actually take some big points at Lando Norris in the championship. He doesn't always score as many points as Lando, but occasionally he does get those flashes in the pan where, you know, Austria, probably the best example of that, where he took that win in that GP just a few weeks ago there. But will Verstappen be able to get potentially a critical move done on Charles Leclerc late on in the day? Of course, a big opportunity for him to try and take points out of both Ferrari cars there. They're both going to take points out of Carlos Sainz in the championship battle, but Verstappen, I'm sure, would still like to try and do something. They're practically pushing the Ferrari along through the final couple of corners then. But Lewis Hamilton rounds through the final few turns here in Singapore. I think it's a bit too late on in the year to be hoping for a championship fight for the Mercedes driver, but through the final couple of turns, back-to-back race victories certainly don't hamper his late season chances there. Through the final corner, Hamilton proving he's still got it with another win here in Marina Bay. Charles Leclerc will just hang on for P2. They're ahead of Max Verstappen come the checkered flag there. Perez, a bit of a disappointing afternoon for him, really just did lack pace all weekend long. They're almost losing out to Carlos Sainz come the checkered flag there. But Oscar Piastri with fastest lap bonus point as well. They're 9 points for him, is really going to bring the championship, the points gap down between him, Alonso, and Lando Norris there in that battle behind Valtteri Bottas. Brilliant job done by Oscar Piastri on his first trip to Singapore. Kevin Magnussen will come through for 7th. Lewis Hamilton's teammate George Russell in P8 there with both Alpines rounding out the top 10. And Lando Norris, a valiant effort late on in the afternoon. I better get him actually just to calm down the pace slightly. I don't want him setting a new fastest lap late on in the day. P12 for Lando. It was a race of what could have been, but you get those sometimes, but a bit gutted he made the mistake he did.
It was such a joy to watch McLaren's driver give it their all. McLaren have shown some serious chops here. A good result for the team from Surrey.
The whole team was absolutely on their game today, and the result proves that.
And after this result, the team is 4th in the constructor standings.
Next round will see us head east as F1 prepares for the Japanese Grand Prix. We'll see you at Suzuka, a firm favourite for the drivers.
Well, there we are then, the end of the Singapore GP. Quite a crazy run. 2 safety cars, a red flag as well, but Hamilton stood through it all there to take a dominant win here around Marina Bay. Charles Leclerc P2 ahead of Max Verstappen there. Perez into 4th ahead of Carlos Sainz there. Oscar Piastri best of the rest, even with fastest lap as well there. Nice to see from him. Kevin Magnussen, George Russell, Ocon and Fernando Alonso rounding out the top 10. And that means in the championship, Carlos Sainz's gap at the top has been cut down to just 18 points there ahead of Charles Leclerc. He's still got 39 ahead of Max Verstappen, though, so you never know what will happen late on in the day. And I mean, if Hamilton can keep scoring big points out of all of them, you know, if they keep taking points away from each other, 90 points still in 5 races is a lot, but never say never in the world of Formula 1 there. Fernando Alonso rejumps Lando Norris, still tied on 55 points apiece. Oscar Piastri, though, just 2 points back now, with Pierre Gasly there still in 8th place despite his DNF. So there is a mega battle going on for best of the rest late on in the campaign there. A few extra points for Ocon and Magnussen as well. I'm sure do them some favours as well. As you can see, we continue to extend the gap over Alpine there. We even get ourselves over the 100-point threshold as well. Just want to try and build up that margin of safety and continue on doing so late on into the year. But thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed as well, and we will be back very, very soon when F1 Manager heads to Suzuka. You guys do not want to miss that. None of these videos would be possible without the help of our channel members, so a massive thank you to all of the names you see on your screens currently for helping support the channel. You can join them by clicking the join button down below, and yeah, thank you once again to everyone that continues all the insane support on my work.